It was a Tuesday, one of those quiet afternoons where everything feels routine. I was at my desk, second coffee half gone, a spreadsheet open but untouched. The call came from an unknown number. I almost let it ring out, but some gut tug made me answer. "Rachel Montgomery?" A crisp voice asked. "Yes." I sat straighter. "This is Daniel Kessler from Kessler and Wright Legal. I'm calling about your grandfather, Walter Montgomery." My chest tightened. Walter, a name I hadn't heard spoken out loud in years. We hadn't been close, barely talked since I was a teenager. He was my dad's father, a man who drifted from the family after my father passed. Cold, distant, or maybe just tired of drama. I didn't know. "I'm sorry to inform you, he passed 3 weeks ago." There was a pause, as if waiting for me to react. "He left a will, and you, Miss Montgomery, are the sole beneficiary." My mind froze. What? "He's left you an inheritance. Significant. Just over $600,000 in liquid assets, plus a few minor holdings. The will was drafted in confidence. Your mother, to our knowledge, is unaware." My throat went dry. 600,000. I leaned back, heart pounding, staring at nothing. Walter left me everything? We hadn't spoken in over a decade. Why me? Why would he? I stopped myself. It didn't matter. He'd made his choice. "You were his only grandchild," Kessler replied simply, like he'd read my mind. He was clear in his instructions. He said you'd understand. But I didn't. Not then. I thanked him, got the details, hung up, and just sat there. For a long time. The apartment was still, the hum of the AC, the only sound. The weight of it all settled in money I never expected, from a man I barely knew, and a secret I suddenly had to protect, because if my mother ever found out, I knew exactly what would happen, and I wasn't ready to let her take one more thing from me. Not this time. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the lawyer's words playing on a loop. $600,000. My breath caught every time I thought it. The number felt unreal, like it belonged to someone else. But it was mine. All of it. I hadn't cried when Walter died. That sounds cold, I know. But he'd been a shadow in my life, a ghost I saw only at birthdays when I was a kid. Still, I remembered his eyes. Sharp, watchful. Like he saw through everything. Maybe that's why he left it to me. Because he knew what Cynthia was. My mother always had a way of turning everything into hers. My childhood, strained. She manipulated people like it was her job, guilt, tears, fake illnesses, whatever worked. I was 10 the first time she stole from me my piggy bank, emptied to buy wine. By high school, I'd learned to keep secrets, keep things close, safe. So I did the only thing I could do with this news. I told no one. Not my friends, not my coworkers, definitely not Cynthia. I drove to the bank in the morning, hands sweaty on the steering wheel, and opened a brand new account, under a different bank, one she didn't know I used. When the transfer cleared and the screen blinked back that impossible number, I let out a laugh I didn't expect. Quiet, shaky, but real. It felt like winning something I hadn't even entered. Not a lottery. A battle, a private war I'd been fighting for years with no name and no medals. I didn't go shopping, I didn't splurge, I made tea, sat on the couch. And for the first time in forever, I let myself imagine a different life. A place of my own, somewhere quiet, a solo trip, maybe Greece, or Iceland. I could invest, finally breathe. The money wasn't just money, it was proof that I wasn't invisible, that someone, even someone as distant as Walter, saw me, believed I deserved something for once. I closed the laptop, heart calm for the first time in weeks, and whispered to no one, "This stays between us," because if Cynthia ever found out, she'd burn the whole world down to get a piece. But this world? This one was mine. I lasted almost 3 weeks. 3 weeks of silence, of pretending like everything was normal. Like I didn't have a 6-figure secret living in my savings account, whispering possibilities into my ear every night, and I would have kept it that way, sealed tight, locked down if it hadn't been for Nicole. My cousin. The only person in my family I halfway trusted. We weren't close growing up, but adulthood had a way of pulling us together. Trauma, mostly. She understood Cynthia's chaos better than anyone. We met up for drinks on a Friday, the kind of night where the city buzzes and you just need to feel like someone sees you. We'd been talking about work, relationships, the usual noise until the second glass of wine hit, and I cracked. "I inherited some money," I said. Quiet, like a confession. Her eyes widened. "From who?" I hesitated. "My grandfather, Walter." She nearly choked. "Wait, Walter Montgomery? The one who barely talked to your mom?" I nodded. "He left it all to me. No one else even knows yet." Nicole leaned in, voice dropping. "Oh my God, that's huge. But why you?" "I think he knew what Cynthia would do with it," I said, half laughing, half sick. "He made sure she couldn't touch a dime." Nicole's face softened. "That's actually amazing and smart." I won't say a word. And I believed her. I did. Until 3 days later. Tuesday evening. My phone lit up with a text from Cynthia. "Hey honey, thinking about you. Want to catch up soon?" My stomach flipped. No insults, no passive-aggressive digs, no demands, just sweetness. Too sweet. I stared at the screen like it might bite. Then, another message. "Dinner this week?" My treat? Cynthia didn't do my treat. She didn't do hearts or kisses. She did guilt and control and reminders of everything I'd owed her since birth. I didn't reply, but I knew. The secret had slipped. And now the wind had shifted. She smelled blood in the water. Or, more accurately, money. The knock came at 9 a.m. on a Thursday. I was in sweats, coffee halfway to my lips, and there she was, Cynthia, standing at my door like it was the most natural thing in the world. Hair done, makeup perfect, clutching a Tupperware of something that smelled aggressively lemon-scented. "Surprise," she chirped, stepping in before I could stop her. "I thought I'd bring you my lemon bars. Your favorite, right?" I blinked. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Just visiting," she said, smiling like we'd ever had the kind of relationship where surprise visits were normal. She floated into my kitchen like she belonged there, placing the container on my counter like a Trojan horse. "You look great," she said. "Have you been working out? New skincare? You're glowing, Rachel." I narrowed my eyes. Cynthia didn't give compliments, not without a price tag. I watched her scan the apartment, my modest but carefully curated space, like she was taking inventory. She touched the back of a chair, straightened a framed photo, then turned to me, all honey. "You know, I've just been thinking so much about family lately," she said, "about how important it is to stay close. I've missed this. Us." My spine stiffened. Us? There hadn't been an us since I was 17 and moved out with nothing but a suitcase and a part-time job. For years, she'd barely checked in unless she needed something. Now she was here with lemon bars and nostalgia? I poured myself coffee, needing something to ground me. "That's nice, Mom." She smiled wider, too wide. "Maybe we could do a little girls' weekend, you and me, just like old times." "Old times?" She meant the silent treatment and slammed doors. I sipped my coffee. "Maybe." I said it flatly, not committing. Because I wasn't sure yet what game she was playing. But I knew it wasn't genuine. Cynthia didn't do kindness without motive. And if she was suddenly full of warmth and lemon bars, it was only because she wanted something. I just didn't know yet how far she was willing to go to get it. It happened late, close to midnight. I was curled up on the couch, laptop open, half watching a documentary when my phone started buzzing across the coffee table. "Mom." I hesitated. Cynthia never called that late, she texted. Or more often, didn't bother at all. The second buzz came louder, insistent. I picked up. Her voice was shaking. "Rachel? Oh, thank God, I didn't know who else to call." My stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "I'm in the hospital," she said, breathing ragged. My heart, or maybe my blood pressure, I don't know. They said it was serious. My body went cold. "Which hospital?" "Memorial, downtown," she said quickly. "But honey, they're asking about insurance and payments and I don't have it. They won't run the tests until I pay something. Could you just please send a little?" I was already reaching for my laptop, pulling up my banking app. "How much?" I asked. "Just a few hundred to start, maybe 1,000. I hesitated. That was a big jump from a little. "I'll send 500 now," I said, typing fast. Okay? You're a lifesaver, she said, voice softening. I don't know what I'd do without you. I wired it through a secure transfer, heart pounding. Call me after the tests, I told her. Promise. Of course, she said, voice trembling, and hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at the dark screen, a knot tightening in my chest. The next morning, no call, no text. I tried reaching her, but it went straight to voicemail. Then, by afternoon, she finally texted, I'm okay, scary night. They let me go early. Relief flooded through me. Until 2 days later, when she called again, voice frantic, saying she was being evicted. Rachel, I can't lose my apartment. The landlord's awful. He won't wait another week. I just need $1,200 to catch up. My pulse spiked. What happened to the hospital bill? I asked. She paused. Oh, the hospital, right, they helped me with that. It's fine now. My head spun. Same shaky voice, same urgency, different crisis. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, debating. I sent another small amount, less than she asked for, through the same secure transfer. She thanked me again, called me her angel. But that night, as I lay in bed, something didn't add up. The tone, the timing, the stories, each one a little different, a little too rehearsed. And deep down, I knew Cynthia wasn't done yet. I didn't want to believe it at first. I wanted to think maybe she really was struggling. Maybe the emergencies were just unlucky timing. But every new detail she dropped made less sense than the last. The next morning, I called Memorial Hospital. I expected some kind of verification, maybe a bill number. The woman on the line checked twice. I'm sorry, she said politely. There's no record of a Cynthia Montgomery admitted in the past week. I thanked her, hung up, and sat still for a long time. My pulse thudded in my ears. She'd lied. Flat out, not exaggerated, lied. About the hospital, about the payments, maybe even about the eviction. My phone buzzed with another text from her before I could think. Hey honey, just wanted to say thank you again for helping me. You've always been my rock. My stomach turned. I scrolled up through our messages, rereading every word, every plea, every promise to pay me back soon. I could almost hear the performance in her tone now. The pauses, the trembling breath. Cynthia was always good at playing damsel, crying just enough to sound believable, softening her voice until guilt took over. It had worked on me more times than I wanted to admit. But this time was different. There was too much at stake. I checked the eviction notice she'd texted me a photo of earlier that week, looked again at the date, the font, the way the header sat crooked at the top of the page. Something about it felt off. I Googled the property management company listed. The logo was different. I called the number disconnected. A fake. My chest tightened. She'd forged the whole thing. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed proof. Real proof. If I called her out too early, she'd twist it, cry, make me the villain. She always did. Instead, I started saving everything: the messages, the fake notice, the transfer receipts, a paper trail, evidence. Because if Cynthia was lying about this, then it wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was something worse, something calculated, and I wasn't about to let her pull me under again, not this time. The night after the fake eviction notice, I barely slept. I kept hearing Cynthia's voice in my head, shaky, desperate, familiar, and it made my skin crawl. I'd spent most of my adult life putting boundaries between us. Now it felt like she'd slipped right through the cracks. I needed to seal the doors. Fast. The next morning, I sat down with a fresh cup of coffee and locked myself into full lockdown mode. I updated every password, two-factor authentication on everything: bank, email, even social media. I downloaded a security app that monitored for breaches and set up alerts for any account activity over $100. Within an hour, I got my first ping: suspicious login attempt. Flagged IP, blocked. My chest went still. It was from my main checking account, the one I hadn't even told anyone existed. Not the new inheritance account, but the one I used for day-to-day expenses. Someone had tried to log in from a location 2 states away. Failed password attempts. 5 tries, then locked out. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. I'd seen this before years ago, when Cynthia accidentally guessed my email password and snooped through my messages. I'd brushed it off then. I wouldn't this time. I called the bank. Sat through the security questions, verified my identity, and had the rep walk me through the access history. The login attempt matched Cynthia's old area code. Not proof, Not yet, but close. We'll flag your account, the woman said calmly, but if it happens again, we recommend filing a formal fraud report. Fraud. The word stuck to me like oil. I hung up, throat dry. This wasn't just guilt-tripping anymore. She was trying to get in. Into my life. Into my accounts. Into what Walter left me. It wasn't enough to beg. She wanted access. Control. And the worst part? She almost had it. I pulled out my old phone, my backup from 2 years ago, and realized with a jolt it still had saved passwords on it. I'd given that phone to Cynthia for emergencies when she cracked hers. My stomach dropped. She'd had it for months. I'd wiped it, or so I thought, but now I wasn't sure. And I was done giving her the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want to believe Nicole would betray me. Not her. She was the one person I thought I could trust my soft place to land when Cynthia got sharp and cold. But I'd learned not to ignore my gut. So I called her. Be honest with me, I said, skipping the small talk. Did you tell my mom about the inheritance? Silence on the other end. Then, a long sigh. Rachel, she pressured me, Nicole said, voice low. She said she heard something, and I didn't think it mattered. And confirmed it. My blood ran cold. You confirmed it? I didn't tell her the amount, she rushed to explain. Just that something had happened. I thought it was harmless. She's your mom. I wanted to scream. Harmless? There was nothing harmless about Cynthia when money was involved. You had no right, I snapped. I told you that in confidence, Nicole's voice cracked. I'm sorry, I didn't know she'd go this far. But I did. I always did. I hung up, the apology ringing hollow. That was the leak. That was how Cynthia had suddenly shown up with lemon bars and sweet nothings. Nicole hadn't broken the dam she'd handed over the crowbar. I sat on the floor, anger pulsing through my arms. Then I started thinking about how much Cynthia knew. Not just about the money, but about me, my habits, my tools, my devices. I got up, went straight to my closet, and pulled out the shoebox where I kept old tech. The phone I'd given her was gone, not misplaced, gone. My stomach dropped. I checked my iPad, same story. She'd used it during a visit months ago. I'd let her, trusted her, like an idiot. I opened my laptop and checked all active device logins. There it was, Samsung Galaxy S8. Registered under my old credentials. Location unknown. She was still inside. I immediately revoked the access. Changed my credentials again. But it was too late for comfort. I'd let her too close. I thought the inheritance would be the beginning of something new. But Cynthia was still playing the same game, just with higher stakes. And now I wasn't just up against her guilt or her lies, I was up against her desperation. It was a small thing at first. The door was locked, but not the way I'd left it. My key turned stiff in the deadbolt, like someone had forced it. I stepped into my apartment slowly, instinct already on edge. Nothing looked stolen, no smashed windows, no drawers thrown open, but the air felt off, heavy, wrong. I walked through the living room, scanning for signs, and stopped cold at the bookshelf. My photo frames were shifted, one laying face down. I always kept them lined up perfectly. My pulse ticked up. In the kitchen, a cupboard was slightly ajar, a cabinet door open just an inch. In my bedroom, my closet door hung wide like someone had looked through it and didn't bother closing it behind them. Still, nothing was missing that I could see. I told myself maybe I left things messy. Maybe I was tired, paranoid, but then I went to the drawer under my bed where I kept my old black notebook, the one with handwritten backup passwords, account numbers, security question answers, just in case. I pulled the drawer open and froze. Empty. The notebook was gone. My mouth went dry. Not misplaced, not moved. Gone. That book had every detail Cynthia would need. It wasn't just a list, it was a blueprint of my entire digital life. I hadn't touched it in months. I should have burned it. I felt my knees go weak as I sat on the edge of the bed, mind racing. She had a spare key once, years ago. I'd meant to change the locks after her surprise visit, but I hadn't gotten around to it. Regret surged through me like acid. I'd underestimated her. Again. I always thought she was dangerous with words, with stories, guilt trips, manipulations. But now she'd crossed a line I couldn't ignore. This wasn't about family anymore. This was a break-in. This was calculated. I got up, hands trembling, and started snapping photos, moved items, the closet, the empty drawer. Then I picked up my phone and called a locksmith. If she had that notebook, I didn't have time to feel scared. I had to be faster than her, because I had a sinking feeling this wasn't over, it was just beginning. It happened the next morning. I was brushing my teeth when my phone lit up with a notification. Suspicious activity alert. Your bank has flagged an unusual transfer request. My stomach dropped. I spat out the toothpaste and grabbed the phone, tapping into the app with shaking fingers. There it was. A transfer request for $53,200 from my inheritance account to an unfamiliar external account. The request had been denied, flagged by their fraud detection. Two-factor authentication had stopped it cold. The location? Logged from an IP in another state nowhere near me. My lungs refused to fill all the way. I called the bank immediately. The woman on the line was calm, but firm. "You're lucky," she said. "The security features you set up last week saved you. Whoever attempted this knew your credentials, but they didn't have the two-factor passcode." My voice came out like sandpaper. "Can you trace where it came from?" "We're investigating," she said. "But from what we can see, it came from a device using your name and account details. Someone had access to your login, but not your phone." My hands were shaking. The notebook, the break-in. Cynthia. I didn't say her name out loud, but her shadow hung heavy in the silence. "We've locked your account," the rep continued. "Nothing can move until we reset everything. I recommend coming in person today. Bring ID." I thanked her, hung up, and just stood there in the middle of my apartment. My safe space no longer felt safe. It had been close, too close. If I hadn't added that second layer of security, if I'd waited another day, that money would be gone. And I knew there was only one person desperate and reckless enough to try something like this. Cynthia hadn't just crossed a line, she'd sprinted past it. My heart thudded against my ribs like it wanted out. I needed to act fast. Because next time, she might not fail. Next time, she might not just go for the money. And I was done letting her gamble with what I'd worked so hard to protect. I never thought I'd file a police report against my own mother. But standing at the downtown precinct, clutching a manila folder full of screenshots, photos, and printed email chains, it didn't feel like I had a choice. It didn't feel like family anymore. It felt like theft. "You're doing the right thing," my lawyer said calmly. Her name was Rebecca Sloan, mid-40 seconds. No nonsense and razor sharp. I'd found her through a coworker who'd gone through something similar with a stalker ex. I'd explained everything, starting with the fake hospital call, the forged eviction notice, the break-in, the missing notebook, and the attempted transfer of $53,000. I showed her the evidence. She didn't blink. "You're lucky she didn't succeed," she said. "But don't wait for that to happen." I sat in her office, torn in half. My hands were steady, but my heart was thrashing against my ribs. I was filing documents against the woman who gave birth to me. The same woman who made me scrambled eggs and said she loved me. The same woman who would now be listed in a police report for attempted financial fraud. Rebecca slid over a document. "You can also apply for a protective order," she said, her tone even. "Restraining order if you prefer. It's not just for physical threats. Digital intrusion, harassment, and attempted financial theft count, especially when you've taken steps to secure your accounts." I hesitated. "It's my mother." "And she tried to rob you," Rebecca said. No judgment in her voice, just fact. "That money was your future. She's already proven she's willing to manipulate, lie, and break in. You want her out of your life? This is how you make it legal." I stared at the forms. Protective order, fraud, restraining access to all assets, my name, her name. On opposite lines. It felt like a death sentence for a relationship that had already been sick for years. But I signed. Slowly, carefully. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. Cynthia had made her choice. Now I had to make mine. Because love didn't excuse everything. Especially not betrayal. Especially not this. I met her at a park just outside the city, the kind of place with too many joggers and just enough sunlight to feel public. I picked the bench closest to the walking path. I didn't want privacy. Not with her. Cynthia arrived 10 minutes late, sunglasses on, holding a paper coffee cup like it was a prop. She looked casual. Calm, like this was a reunion, not a reckoning. "You look tired, sweetheart," she said, sitting beside me. "Are you eating?" You broke into my apartment, I said flatly. Her smile didn't falter, but her shoulders shifted. You tried to transfer $53,000 from my account, I continued. You used an old notebook, you guessed the password, but you didn't get past two-factor authentication. Her hand froze around the coffee cup. I turned toward her, voice low but steady. And before that, you lied about being in the hospital, you faked an eviction notice, you manipulated Nicole, and you've been inside my life without permission for months. For a second, just one. Her expression cracked. Then came the shift. I gave you life, she hissed, voice trembling. After all, I sacrificed you wouldn't even exist if it weren't for me. I didn't blink. That doesn't give you the right to steal from me. It was a loan, she snapped. I would have paid it back. You don't need that money like I do. It wasn't yours to need, I said. It wasn't yours to touch. She leaned forward, voice dropping. You're seriously going to do this? To your own mother? Over some money from a man who didn't even love you? He trusted me more than you ever did, I said. He saw through you. That's why he kept it quiet. Cynthia's face went still. For once, she didn't have a comeback, just quiet fury. You don't get to call me when you're scared and then rob me behind my back. You don't get to demand love while holding a knife. She looked away, jaw tight. I needed help. You needed control, I said. And now you have neither. I stood up, heart heavy but firm. The lawyer you're about to hear from? Her name's Rebecca Sloan. She's already filed the paperwork. You'd take me to court? She snapped. No, I said. I'd protect myself, that's the difference. And I walked away. This time, I didn't look back. The cease and desist letter went out that Monday. Rebecca sent me a copy, formal, sharp, and emotionless. Just a handful of pages that said everything I couldn't keep repeating. Do not contact me. Do not enter my property, do not access my accounts. Any further attempts will be met with legal action. I read it 3 times before deleting the email. It didn't feel triumphant. It felt like cutting the last thread between us, and I needed it gone. I changed everything. Locks first, new deadbolt, new key, then passwords. I even replaced my phone number, the one I'd had since high school, the one Cynthia used to call at midnight when she needed money or comfort or both. Gone. I opened a new email address. Set up a burner for lawyer correspondence. Updated every 2-factor code with a new device. It was like shedding a skin one layer at a time, every step erasing access she thought she had to me. I was finally unplugging her from my life. But cutting off your mother isn't clean. It's not a switch you flip. It's a wound that pulses, even when it's necessary. I started therapy 3 weeks into the silence. My sessions with Dr. Kavinsky were slow at first, lots of pauses, lots of unpacking. She didn't prod. She just asked the right questions. When did you start believing it was your job to fix her? I didn't have an answer. Journaling helped more than I expected. Late at night when the guilt crept in like fog, I'd write, not for forgiveness, not for clarity, just to release it. The anger, the sadness, the weight of being parented by someone who never really grew up. Cynthia didn't respond to the cease and desist, not directly. But I got word through Nicole that she'd called the letter dramatic and claimed I'd overreacted. I expected nothing less. But this time I didn't flinch. I didn't answer. I didn't explain myself. Cutting her off wasn't revenge, it was protection. I wasn't her bank. I wasn't her therapist. I wasn't her last resort. I was done carrying the cost of her chaos. She taught me that love had conditions. But I was finally learning the truth. Real love has boundaries. And I was allowed to draw mine. 6 months later, I stood in the doorway of my new home. Small, sunlit, quiet. The kind of place that felt like breathing out after years of holding my breath. It sat on the edge of town, tucked behind a line of tall trees, with a garden I hadn't touched yet, and hardwood floors that caught the light just right. I used part of the inheritance for the down payment. The rest, I invested carefully with the help of an advisor Walter's lawyer recommended. And I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I launched my side business, a data analytics consultancy. Small clients, steady work, all mine. I built the website from scratch, designed the logo, registered the LLC. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. And it was mine. I worked during the day, then painted the guest room at night. I added plants too many, probably. I adopted a cat I named Juniper, who liked to curl up beside me when I journaled. And every time I walked through the front door, I reminded myself, I did this. Not Cynthia. Not guilt. Not fear. Me. Some nights, the past still tried to creep in memories of late-night fights, her voice dripping with blame, the weight of always being responsible for her happiness. But the difference now? I didn't let those memories set up camp. I acknowledged them. Then I let them go. I still saw Nicole sometimes. She'd apologized again this time without excuses, and we were rebuilding, slowly. Therapy was helping me learn the difference between forgiveness and access. You can forgive someone without giving them a key to your front door, or your life. My lawyer emailed me recently just a routine follow-up. She ended the message with a line that stuck with me. Sometimes survival looks like silence. And it did. Not the scared kind, the peaceful kind. The kind you earn. I protected what was mine. My money, my name, my future. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the next fire to put out. I was just living, breathing, choosing. And that was more valuable than anything Cynthia could have taken, because I didn't just survive her, I outgrew her. I never thought I'd tell this story out loud, much less share it with strangers, but a few weeks ago, I hit publish on a blog post I titled "The Day I Filed a Police Report Against My Mother." It was late at night, and I was sitting on the floor of my new office, surrounded by plants and soft lighting and the quiet kind of freedom that only comes after surviving something heavy. I didn't write it to expose her. I didn't write it for pity. I wrote it because I knew there was someone out there, probably a lot of someone's, carrying the same kind of shame I used to drag around. The kind you're not supposed to name. The kind that says, family is sacred, no matter the damage. But here's what I've learned. Sacred doesn't mean untouchable. It doesn't mean unaccountable. Family can wound you just as deeply as any stranger, sometimes worse, because they're handed your trust at birth. What they do with it is up to them. And protecting yourself from the fallout isn't betrayal. It's survival. After I shared my story, the messages started coming in. Quiet confessions in the comments. Long emails from people who'd been gaslit, drained, used by those closest to them. Stories that looked so much like mine it hurt to read them, but it also reminded me I wasn't alone. None of us are. These wounds don't make us weak, they make us human. I talked about everything: how I nearly lost $53,000, how I filed legal papers with shaking hands, how I changed my locks and my phone number and my entire understanding of love. I talked about therapy and journaling and Juniper the cat, and I ended it with the one thing I needed to hear back then. Maybe it's what you need to hear now. If someone tries to take what you've built, especially in the name of family, don't let guilt break your guard. Your peace is worth protecting. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because they share your blood. You don't have to bleed just to prove your loyalty. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to shut the door. And when you do, it doesn't mean you're heartless. It means you've finally chosen yourself. And that's not selfish. That's freedom. This story was intense, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.